Thanks for joining us today on another episode of Crooked Mustache, where today, this missing bolt was the least of our problems. Stay tuned. Here is our brake rotor. Remember, we drove this thing hundreds of miles to get home. This is worn, this is gone. We're in for a fun time. Let's get started.
This assembly is pretty much going to come off. No material left on that at all. Whoa. Okay. So, new plan.
Now the original issue we had was that one of the bolts that holds the caliper bracket to the car had backed out. But upon taking everything apart, we found out that the caliper bolt pins, those two black things, one of them was seized, and that was just the beginning of our problems. Now we got stuck with the caliper bolt pin. The one on the right was loose, but the one on the left was refusing to budge. So I tried a few things. I tried welding a nut onto the head of the bolt in hopes that I could use that for some leverage, only to then have that nut shear right off. Then I thought, I got this. I will grind down the coating off of the other side of this long bolt, and I'll weld a nut onto that long shaft. It'll give me more grip, more material to grab onto, and I'll do that. That weld also broke. Finally, in pure frustration, and some of you might say in a stroke of genius, I decided I would just completely square off the nut so I could get a set of adjustables onto it and use that in order to actually grip this thing enough to break it free, because chances are that bolt is the original. Alright, and we'll freeze it right there. Now we want to focus on a few things. We want to focus on the pivot point of this whole thing that's going to happen. And that's right there, that bolt, when it eventually breaks free. Now, in case you forgot middle or high school science class, that bolt is now the fulcrum and the wrench is the lever. So we know that the lever will rotate around the point of the fulcrum. And it doesn't take a scientist to figure out that the thing at the very end of the lever is right in line with that hammer.
"15 minutes later."
But we did finally break it loose. The caliper goes up here.
With the caliper bolt pins now removed, it was time to focus on the bolts that actually hold the caliper bracket onto the car.
Now I did run into one small problem. The problem is this, there you go, this is a grade 10 bolt, or grade 10.9 as it's more specifically referred to. Unfortunately, the Home Depot bolt is only grade 8.8. That is where this comes in. You can get these, this is Hillman hardware. And these are typically found in the doorman help section of your local auto parts store. So let's get rid of that. And just so that you guys don't think I can confuse them, the Home Depot one is flanged with these little grippers and the one is not. So we won't confuse that. This is grade 10.9. This is automotive grade hardware, but we definitely don't want to run the risk of this coming through too far. Just going around.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
There's the one we cut. The first thing we're going to do is replace the pins. So these do go in a particular order for this one. I'm going to try to see if I can get this thing off. And there we go, we got it off. And we simply place it onto the new one. We can align, there we go.
Now the last thing that we had to do before we finished putting the whole thing back together was ensure that this caliper piston was twisted all the way back into its socket so that we could press it flush to the caliper housing. Just as a point of notice, that black fluid that comes out really has me thinking that the brake fluid was the original and that this has never been serviced through the life of the vehicle.
I'm gonna go ahead and pre-brake free the bleed valve where I've got more leverage and it's easier for me to get to out here out of the car. There we go.
Empanadas 305 helps you bring a taste of Miami right to your business. With customers from coast to coast, whether you've got a restaurant, bakery, or food truck, they'll do the work for you so you can bring that taste of 305 to your menu. You'll find their information in the description below.
Rip my ears.
Now just a quick once over with the wire brush to smooth over those mating surfaces. With the rotor on, that just leaves reattaching the brake line and reinstalling the caliper. Now my hope is that this was supposed to be the worst of the four, meaning that we're one step closer to a test drive. So to kind of drive the point home of just how bad the driver's side was, I wanted to show you guys how the passenger side looked. And upon taking the pads out, I was really perplexed to see that the passenger side brake pads looked almost new. The dark coloration of the brake fluid was a clear indication this car was not maintained. It was clearly contaminated and probably had never been bled since day one, leading to basically brand new pads on one side and down to the metal on the other. This is why your braking system is so critical and needs to be periodically serviced. Now when it comes to the brakes, the fronts were as straightforward as possible. With the caliper and bracket removed, swapping off the rotor, making sure that we wash the packaging oils off the new one before we put it back on, a little bit of grease on the slide pins for the bracket itself. With that installed, we can make sure that we put a little bit of copper grease on the slide points of the pads. It helps reduce noise. Make sure that we push the piston back into the caliper, mount the caliper, and believe it or not, we're done. It's very, very straightforward. Now, when it comes to the other side, we're gonna do this even faster. With a snap of the fingers, we're done, and it's time for a test drive. I guess it is kind of hard to go anywhere without any wheels on the car, so with one more step, we'll be able to do that. With the wheels on and torqued to spec, we can do the other side real quick, and now we're ready for a test drive.
Crap. Yeah, it was recording. Okay. So here we go. First time in almost 2 years that we're taking this car for any meaningful drive. So, a lot of vibrations. A lot of vibrations. Here we go. So it will lock up the wheels because the ABS is not working. Thank you guys as always so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming future videos. As always, for Crooked Mustache, I'm Alfred, and I'll see you next time. Dale!